Hi. So this is I'm gonna read a post from you for you. I was getting prepared to do my a new episode of the Grateful Gamer, which I'm now is the new name for that. But anyways, we're getting ready to do a new podcast for or new episode of my podcast, my gaming podcast, and in the meantime, I was quickly sharing me and my sister's personal podcast, The Poor Rikes, because our new episode went up this morning. And so before I was getting into this stuff, I was sharing that around, and then I went into my blog, an old non-gaming blog, which only has like 4 or 5 posts on it. And I hadn't used it in a long time because that specific blog is the reality blog, which I don't normally write or talk about or anything, unless I'm talking with my sister, which is where the podcast comes from. Anyways, I found this old post about Ender's Game and why you should read it. That was the name of it, Ender's Game, why you should read it. Now, I didn't even know that I wrote something about it, and like I understand why I did, because it was like my most favorite book in the world, one of them anyways. Um, so I wrote this in 2013. I'm gonna read it to you. All right, so here we go. This is Ender's Game, why you should read it. So, since there's a movie coming out based on the book, I got in the mood to read it again. It had been maybe a year or a little bit longer since I first read it. I'll never forget that I practically cried through the entire book my first time reading it. A quick note on this one line, that is not an exaggeration, that's very literal. The second time I was a bit more prepared for it. I knew what was going on and all that, but there were still many tear-jerking moments, especially at the end. Of course, not everybody will have the same reaction to the book I did. Right from the start, I found it to be driven by truly powerful emotion, deep but also easy to read. I found very slow, boring parts in the book, and it wasn't that those parts were exactly boring, just sometimes too much description of unnecessary scenes in books drive me a bit crazy, especially when is right at a good part. And almost every part in this book was good. Excuse me, got like hiccups or whatever. Just like the first time I read the book, I pretty much couldn't put it down the second time. But that was also thanks to my computer crashing out and taking 16 to 18 hours of recovery. Anyways, the story we follow is of Ender, who starts out as a 6-year-old and by the end of the main story is 11. There's a little bit of extra story that takes him into older years, but it's for some really good closure, and I imagine the book would have been fine without it. But I'm certainly happy we got that final closure. It's beautiful. Ender gets bullied constantly throughout the story, but that's not to say the story is about him being bullied. It's not. In this world, children are trained to fight off aliens. I'm keeping it simple, okay? Ender is special. He scores better than all the other kids as part of the initial test to even see if they want to train these kids to become leaders of their military. You know early on that people training him expect him to be the savior. So they train him harder than the others and keep him isolated. He isn't allowed friends, and when he thinks he has finally made some, he is taken away from them, moved to another group every single time. It's pretty heartbreaking. He's emotionally tortured in order to become the savior of mankind. It's nuts. He's forced into violence to defend himself, and all he wants is to love and be loved. He is the most lonesome hero. I could relate to almost everything. It's one of the most beautiful stories I've read. I love the book so much that I implore you to at least read the first chapter. It would be easy because it's short. If that doesn't suck you in and you're not interested, then that's fine. But if you haven't read this, you need to give it a look. It is impossible to put what's in this book into a movie, but I can't wait to see it. It looks pretty incredible. And if you've looked at the movie and seen some comments, I should probably add trailer to that. If you looked at the movie trailers and seen some comments, you might have seen people talking about Ender's age in the film. I find it easy to understand. I think it would be pretty hard for them to find a bunch of 6 to 8 year olds to film up some pretty intense parts, and just showing these things happen to such young children, it's freaking traumatic. I think a part of that is legal stuff as well. The entire story is really beautiful. The ending is predictable but unexpected at the same time, and the epilogue is shocking and amazing. Ender is a true hero. You get to know everything about him and how he becomes who he is, how he breaks yet never loses his true self. When it comes to books, while The Dark Tower is my soul, Ender's Game is my heart. Below, I'm going to post the descriptions from the back of the book and some of my favorite excerpts, some with a brief description or my opinion on it. Warning, in my opinion, some of these excerpts are spoilers, but also in my opinion, each of them should be enough to make you want to read it. Oh man, all right. So here's the description of the book. I wrote this because I don't know. I was just sharing the book, but I forgot. Yeah, I specifically wrote that in response to the movie coming out and comments that were on the internet on the trailers and stuff, especially about the age. But there were all kinds of comments and of course we if we all kind of are used to movies not being quite as good as the book, stuff like that, right? I thought they did a great job on the movie. There's just no way they could have put half the emotion in the book into the movie. It's impossible. It's just impossible. In my opinion, if it ever happened one day, I would love to see it because it would also be really hard. I don't think I'd ever actually be able to watch that movie because I don't think I'd be able to see through the tears that are constantly coming out of my eyes. Like. All right. So the description of the book. Once again, Earth is under attack. An alien species is poised for a final assault. The survival of humanity depends on a military genius who can defeat the aliens. But who? Ender Wiggin. Brilliant, ruthless, cunning, a tactical and strategic master, and a child. Recruited for military training by the world government, Ender's childhood ends the moment he enters his new home, Battle School. Among the elite recruits, Ender proves himself to be a genius among geniuses. In simulated war games, he excels. But is the pressure and loneliness taking its toll on Ender? Simulations are one thing. How will Ender perform in real combat conditions? After all, battle skill is just a game. So that's the description of the book. Here's some excerpts I saved. I think I must have written these down as I was reading the book, probably, because my memory is, there's no way I would have remembered these like specific. I most likely wrote these down as I was reading it a second time. It's almost impossible for tears not to roll out of my eyes as I read each of these. And I haven't read this book in a really long time. And these just anyways, I'll probably do okay, reading these out loud, especially since I have to. Okay, so anyways, here we go. I'm just sharing these. These were really, I wrote all this stuff down in my post about it because I felt it was worth sharing, the book is very, very special to me. All right, so here's one. Thank you for this, Peter, for dry eyes and silent weeping. You taught me how to hide anything I felt more than ever. I need that now. And this was someone who wrote this to Peter, who is Ender's brother, who bullied him as well. He was a horrible brother. One sec. Sorry, I had to clear my throat. I loved that specific excerpt. You taught me how to hide anything I felt. Like that by itself, that one line is just like, yep. And then the next one, more than ever, I need that now. It's good stuff. And then another excerpt. But that's what I came for, Ender said. For them to make me into a tool to save the world. And my note on this was, I can't say much on that without spoiling stuff to explain it. I thought it was pretty key, though, and shows a lot of character. Yeah. So Ender, I don't know, it's a trip, man. There's so much I could say about that specific line. And so that one by itself, I guess, is out of context in a way. But also, you understand it, right? He knows that he was made into a tool to save the world. Another one, I'm hurting people again just to save myself. Why don't they leave me alone so I don't have to hurt them? And this was Ender, his thoughts while he was being repeatedly bullied by jealous kids, and he doesn't want to hurt them. Another one, and then a worse fear, that he was a killer, only better at it than Peter ever was, that it was this very trait that pleased the teachers. Another one, when he was first taken, father and mother sat at the table and keyed in long letters to him every few days. Soon, though, it was once a week, and when no answers came, once a month. Now it had been 2 years since he went, and there were no letters, none at all, and no remembrance on his birthday. He is dead, she thought bitterly, because we have forgotten him. Yeah, God, I can't not cry. Anyways, this was Ender's sister's thoughts on his birthday. The military was not letting their family's letters go through to him. He wasn't receiving them. They were sending them, and that's why the letters slowed. They weren't getting any response from Ender, but Ender wasn't receiving their letters from his family. Ender is to be isolated. They're forcing him to be alone. Another excerpt. And Ender realized that in their laughter, in their friendship, it had not occurred to them he could have been included. These were friends he made, but now leads. They no longer see him able to join. This is my own note, all right? This is my note on that excerpt. You know, these are friends that he made, but now leads. They no longer see him as able to join in on the fun and jokes. It's not because he leads, it's because of what he has become, what was made of him. Another excerpt. Ender Wiggin crying? That was disturbing. Something terrible was going on. The best soldier in any army lying on his bunk crying. The silence in the room was deep. I didn't write a note on this one, but I remember that. I remember that scene. It was, all of them they were going to sleep. It was night. They were all in their bunks. I can't remember what happened that specific night though, that he was just crying. I think he just had a moment of weakness, or whatever. He had a regular normal people moment, right? But yeah, so I wish I remember specifically what led to that. It might not have been anything specific, and it might have just been he broke one night, But yeah, I loved that final line there too. The silence in the room was deep, like deep. It wasn't like normal silence. It was, God. Anyways, another one. Ender despised them, but secretly, so secretly that he didn't even know it himself. He feared them. I like that one. I thought that was good. Another one. He thought of a half dozen ideas before he went to sleep. Ender would be pleased. Every one of them was stupid. My note on this was just really funny. Ender had asked the kid to come up with ideas he would never think of himself. He's a smart kid, but Ender wanted something different, unusual. And I can remember that kid too. He was kind of silly, I think, if I remember right. I don't remember fully, but he was he was the outcast or whatever. He was a little weirdo and stuff. And Ender went to him because he knew that this kid would think of stuff that Ender would not think of. And he was like, hey, bring me some ideas. And he didn't care. And that's why the specific point was Ender would be pleased every one of his ideas were stupid. I don't know. That was such a good one. That was cool. All right, let's see. Next one. I'm scrolling down the page a little, sorry. All right, here we go. He was a soldier, and if anyone had asked him what he wanted to be when he grew up, he wouldn't have known what they meant. And my note on this was these were key words, not just that he wouldn't know, that he wouldn't know what they meant by that. Another one. Ender Wiggin isn't a killer, he just wins thoroughly. If anybody's going to be scared, let it be the buggers. Makes you almost feel sorry, and this isn't an answer by another character. Makes you almost feel sorry for the buggers, knowing Ender's going to be coming after them. And then my note on this is in reference to the aliens. The other line is key to how Ender reacts to his bullies in that kind of situation. The other line here, you don't see it, but he just wins thoroughly. That was a part of the story too, like his bullies as well. Like I can't remember how it started. I don't think he fought back immediately. It's kind of earlier too. There was that other one where he was like, why don't they leave me alone? I don't want to hurt them. He doesn't just fight back. Like he makes sure they'll never, ever do it again. Ever. You don't mess with Ender, but he doesn't want to hurt them. So anyways, that was another one I thought was good. All right, here we go next. Ender didn't wave when she walked down the hill toward him, didn't smile when she stepped into the floating boat slip, but she knew that he was glad to see her, knew it because of the way his eyes never left her face. And my note on this, Ender and his sister Valentine's brief reunion. I love her name. So he hadn't seen his sister in a long time, and they finally had a moment where they could meet up. And I don't know, that's a beautiful one. Next, I have a few of these from their reunion because they were pretty good. So the next one, this is their conversation. A few lines. Ender, I also remembered that you're beautiful. His sister, memory does play tricks on us. Ender, no, your face is the same, but I don't remember what beautiful means anymore. And that line right there, dude, like, I don't remember what beautiful means anymore. I know that. I feel that, man, Next one. Ender, I was afraid that I'd still love you. His sister, I hoped that you would. Ender, my fear, your wish, both granted. And the reason I liked this one was because of Ender's fear. I was afraid that I'd still love you. You get that, right? Next one. She joked, but it frightened her that Ender might understand her as completely as he did his enemies. I didn't have a note there. I just thought that was a good one, and I still think that's a good one. Like, I don't even, like, that's out of context, sort of, for me, but I also get it. You know what I mean? All right, here's another one. Ender, you don't understand. His sister, yes, I do. No, you don't. I don't want to beat Peter. Peter is Torture's brother. And then she responds, then what do you want? And Ender says, I want him to love me. And I thought that was a really good interaction because she she thought she wanted she thought he wanted to defeat him like badly, you know, to get revenge and all that kind of stuff. But he's like, no, I want him to love me. I wish I could remember that in context too, because this Ender was an amazing human being, man. You know, but he was also, like they described him earlier in that one of those was like ruthless. In the description of the book was he's brilliant, ruthless, and cunning, a tactical and strategic master. He's ruthless for sure, 100%. And it's not because he wants to be. He has to be. It's just, and it also became a part of him. You know, it wasn't who he was. It was what he was. You know, like right. Pretty freaking nuts. All right, so I have a couple more. It looks like. Oh, this one I love. This one. All right, here's this one. It was as if someone wrote him in his sleep, forcing him to wander through his worst memories, to live in them again as if they were real. Nights were so real that days began to seem dreamlike to him. I feel like that's perfection. Another one, All Dreams, is related to that one. It was probably in the same part, maybe not. All dreams, if there was love or pity for him, it was only in his dreams. And that's it. That was my those were all the excerpts after I wrote, you know, my feelings on the book. And anyways, I don't really have anything extra to add at this time off the top of my head. I wanted to read this post to you and share it because I had forgotten all about this. It was 8 years ago now. Like, well, 7 years. A little bit, whatever. It was 2013, May. But yeah, I loved Ender's Game, man. Really, really good stuff, and I do enjoy the movie very much. And of course, it's not even half as good as the book as you know tends to be. But I thought they did a really good job. That's all I remember. Is I liked it. I thought it was good. All right, well, thanks for listening. Hopefully, I'll hear from you soon. Talk to you soon. Whatever. Have a great day.